Hello and welcome to Homework Review. My name is Mike. I'm your TA for Intro to Computer Science, CS161, problem solving, whatever you call it. If you didn't know that I was your TA, now you know. Let's review homework number 2. First, let's talk about the problem. The problem is all about pizza, right? So you buy a pizza and you want to know how much you're paying for the pizza in terms of square inches. So here's the pizza. It's a circle. Um, can you really tell how much you paid for let's say this is a 10-inch pizza, um, and it cost $10? Can you really say that you are paying 10 divided by 10, $1 per inch of pizza? That's not so accurate because we want to know with the whole size of the pizza, square inches, because it's a circle. We're looking at the area. I mean, it works if you were going to buy, like, I don't know, milk of some sort. Let's see if I could draw a milk carton. It's not too bad. Okay, that's supposed to be milk. It could be any milk that you want, any type of milk. Let's say this is 10 gallons, and you paid $10 for it. I'm using tens a lot here. You can say that you have paid $1 per gallon for this milk. But it doesn't quite work the same with pizza. Well, at least for the homework assignment, we want to know in terms of square inches. So that means we need to find the area of the circle, or the area of the pizza, which is equal to pi r squared. So once again, when you're buying a 10-inch pizza, you're not buying a pizza whose area is 10 inches. You're buying a pizza with a diameter of 10 inches. So we need to take those ideas and put them in our minds and think about how to go about this problem as a computer scientist. So one of the ways to get started is with pseudocode. And pseudocode allows us to think about code in a more human language as opposed to a computer language. With pseudocode, and I always spell it wrong, so I always forget if it's UE or EU, pseudocode. That's when you just write out the code step by step by hand. And we want to think about the steps of how do we make this program work. We know that the first thing that we want to do is get input. We want to get the price of the pizza. We want to get the size of the pizza. So this could be step 1, get input. And step 1.1 or 1A is get the size. Step 1B, let's get the price. Okay, cool. We get the size of the pizza from the person using the program. We get the price of the pizza from the person using the program. Then what do? Well, we need to crunch some numbers. We need to do some math. We know that the area of a circle is pi r squared, but when we are getting the size of the pizza, it's actually the diameter. And we have to think about the relationship between the diameter of a circle and its radius. So the diameter is like if you draw a line from one edge of a circle to the other edge. Just like that. That's the diameter. And the radius is half the diameter. So the diameter is edge to edge. I might be using the wrong terms. I am not a math major. And the radius is half of the diameter. And we know that we just received the diameter of the pizza from the person using the program. So we need to just store the diameter in terms of the size divided by 2. So step 2, actually, let's not say that step 2 is get diameter. We're going to say step 2 is do the math. And one part of that, or A, is set radius. And that's going to be diameter divided by 2. Then we're going to use the area formula. The area of a circle is pi r squared. So then it's, figure out the radius. Sorry, figure out the area. And that is going to be pi times the radius squared. Now what do we do? So we just figured out the area. We need to do some more math. Once we get the area, we need to find out how much the pizza costs in terms of square inches. So we need to do some division. So find the cost. And the cost is going to be the price divided by the area. So in parentheses, we can say price divided by area. And then we also want to round the results. So round cost 2 decimal places. Awesome. And the last step, because if someone's using the program, they're going to put in the size, they're going to put in the price, the computer is going to do all these calculations, set the radius, figure out the area, find the cost, round the cost. If the program just stops there, it's useless. It needs to tell them what the result is, so we print the result. Now, this is some very close to human language pseudocode right here. This is a program. It has steps. They are very precise. Maybe not that precise, but precise enough for reviewing the homework. We get the input, we get the size, we get the price. We do the math, set the radius, figure out the area, find the cost, round the cost 2 decimal places, and then we print the final result. So what does this look like as code? That's the next step. Let's go there. So I actually prefer to write out code. I think it's more fun, and I think it also it goes a little bit slower when you do it by hand, especially if you're learning this for the first time. If you just see somebody just typing real fast, or they're just like, here's my code, and there it is, and it instantly appears, I feel like for some learning styles, it doesn't click right away. And if you like faster stuff, you could just, make the video go at 2x speed, and that's probably okay as well. I do the same thing. So let's look at this as code. It's always important to have comments in your code. So I'm just going to say this is the pizza program. I'm just going to call it pizza. Here you go, pizza. And I am going to set a variable. Actually, I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to set a variable for pi. And there's more than one way to use pi. I'm going to use the way that I thought of before Bart maybe changed the homework. So I'm just going to use a comment to show the different sections of code. So I'm going to say pi equals 3.14. So that's my variable that I created called pi. I essentially made a little box in memory named pi, and inside of it is the value 3.14. That's what variables do inside the computer. You're asking for a little bit of memory to store some information that you can use later. Next up, we want to get user input, or input from the person using the program. So I'm going to make that another section. Call this the input section. And first thing we want to do is get the size. So I'm going to make another variable named size. You might name it S. You might name it diameter. And I'm going to say input. And inside I'll have a little message, pizza size. And I'll leave a little space so that way when it prints to the program and the person enters a number, that the number isn't like right next to the E, because it just looks strange to me. And the next thing that I want to do is get the price. So we'll make another variable called price. That will be input price in quotes. We want to put it in quotes, so this way the input gives exact instructions to the person using the program. And once again, I'm leaving a little space there to make the output neater. And in memory, what this looks like, in my imagination, this is what the computer's memory looks like. We have a variable named pi that has 3.14. We have another variable. Don't mind the size of the square. That has nothing to do with how much memory is there. There is. This is just me drawing squares funny. So this one is called size, and the other one is called price. And I'm leaving it blank because we haven't stored any information in there. Now, there's one thing that's missing from the program so far, and we had to remember something very important. When we are getting input from the input function that someone types in, Python is going to read it as a string. And strings are cool when you want words and paragraphs and names and addresses, but we want numbers that we can use math operations on. You can't do math operations on strings in Python. So we need to do a type conversion or typecast to change the type of input from string to int for the size, because we're using whole numbers, and we want to change the input of price. We want to change that type to float so that it can be a decimal number, because that's how money works. Sometimes the pizza is $12. Sometimes the pizza is $5.99. So we want this program to reflect the nature or reality of the numbers that we're using. So what we can do is use the int function. So this function right here will typecast its parameter, the argument inside that would go right here. It will typecast that into an integer. And the float function will typecast its parameter or argument, whichever term you like to use, into a float. Now, some folks may have done something like int input. That's a nested function. The innermost function will get evaluated first, so Python will ask the user for their input. and then once the input comes in, it will be converted to an int. But I already wrote out my code here, and I do it a little differently. Instead of nested functions, I just like to call on the variable again, because that's a thing you can do. There's also more than one way to write the code to solve this problem. I'm showing you how I did it. So I'm going to say, hey, you know what? That size variable, we're going to use that again and say that size, so size is now going to be equal to int size. So whatever value is inside of the memory that we've made for size, we're going to update that with int size. So when a program runs, and let's say someone enters a 4, that's not actually the number 4, it's the string 4. You can't do math with the string 4, but you can do math with the int 4, which is an error that some of you may have seen in your code. You might have gotten a type error. When you see that, that means that something's going on, that you're trying to do math with a string, or you're trying to do something that you're not supposed to do with a Boolean or an integer or a float. So that's something to look out for, is your type errors. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, whatever is inside of size, we are going to convert that to an int. So in this case, it was the string 4 that then gets converted to the integer 4. And we can repeat this with price, except instead of a string, we are going to convert it to a float. So we're going to say price. Hey, that memory that you made for price, that value inside of there, it's a string, and I want it to be a float instead. So let's say price equals float price. Now, this is the input section of the program. We wanted to get the size and the price of the pizza and convert those into types that we can use in our program. Next up, we're going to do some math. We're going to crunch some numbers. So I'm just going to call this math. And the first thing we want to do, if we look at our pseudocode here, is we want to set the radius, because we need the radius in order to use the area formula. Once again, there's more than one way to do it. You could figure out the area with a diameter, but that's not what we're doing. So let me make sure we can see most of the code so far. We'll keep it like right here, starting at variable. So next up in the math section, we'll make another variable. This one is going to be called radius. And we're going to say, hey, let's make some memory called radius. And it is going to be equal to the value that is the size divided by 2. I should have made this a little bit bigger. So radius equals size divided by 2. There we go. And what that looks like in code is radius is equal to size divided by 2. Cool. Now we have the radius. Whatever size the user inputs is going to be equal to, the radius is going to be equal to whatever size the person puts into the program divided by 2. If they put in the number 10, radius equals size divided by 2. Size is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so radius is 5. If they enter a 200, it's going to be 100. That's a really big pizza. If they enter 14, we get 7, and so on and so forth. So that's the radius. Now it's time for the area. Let's make another variable. That's a funny word to say sometimes. Let's make another variable called area. And area is going to be equal to pi, which is the variable that I made earlier. So the value of pi times. Now, some people did the squaring of the radius different. I'm going to show one way to do it. My way isn't the best way. It's not the right way. There's just more than one way to do things. I did radius times, oh, yeah, radius. I'm getting my variables confused. Radius times radius, right? Isn't that the same? Like 7 squared is the same as 7 times 7. 10 squared is the same as 10 times 10. So that's how I went about doing it. Some people may have done, use the POW function, where it would be radius raised to the power of 2. Some folks may have done radius star star, which is the same as radius squared. So there's more than one way. There is creativity in computer science. Whoa, who would have thought? So we have our area. We have the area. Now we need to do something with the area. We want to find out the cost per square inch of the pizza. So we'll say that cost. So this is another variable, cost. Now I got memory all over the place. So here's cost in memory, which is going to be equal to, do you remember what we said? It's going to be equal to the price. So whatever value price is divided by the area of the pizza. We don't know what that number is right now because it could be anything. No one has run the program yet. But that's how it goes. I feel like I'm going really long with this homework explanation, but I like to, use a lot of details, and I hope that this really helps you out. We're not done yet. We're almost there. We are almost there because we now have the cost. But there was one other thing we had to do, right? We want to figure out the cost. We want to show the cost, but we want to make it nice and neat. No one is spending like, 0.666235 cent on something. We always round to the nearest 2 decimals. So in order to do that, we're going to use the round function. There's more than one way to round things. I'm using the round function, which goes, oh wait, let me switch my colors so we know that this isn't code. Round. And round takes 2 arguments. The first argument is the number that you want to round, and then the second argument is I'll say, let's put an A there, the amount of decimal places that you want to have. So in this case, I'm going to make another variable. Wait, no, I'm not. I'm just going to update. I am going to update cost so that cost equals whatever cost was. Okay, it's going to equal cost, but we're going to round. Look at that, had enough space for the parentheses, just barely. We're going to round it to 2 decimal places. There we go. So now whatever value was inside of cost, it could have been 1.2345, and let me write that down so I don't forget it. 1.2345. But when I put it through the round function, it then gets updated to 1.23 probably. Um, so that is the round function. Uh-oh, I just deleted the memory. Let's bring that memory back. Okay, so we have everything in the program except one item. Remember, the program is useless if it doesn't have output. If someone is expecting an answer to something, if they're entering information and they need to get something back, you need to print those results. So I'm going to add another section. So my comment here will be results. And over here we will use the print function. So print, and we'll put in quotes the pizza cost per square inch is, this is a long line, and put the semicolon and a space, that's a space there, that's a space, and then I am going to use the variable results. So I'll add a comma and do, no, not result, cost. And then close the parentheses. So the quotes, the item in quotes, that's the literal thing that I want print to print. And then I'm saying, hey, also add this variable at the end. Not the literal variable cost, but the value inside of cost. So when the computer runs this line, it'll call up the print function. It'll say, okay, cool, I will output the pizza cost per square inch is space. And then I'm going to look into memory and see what's inside. There's going to be something in there, and it's going to print that. And that, my friends, is the pizza calculator program. Let's get this all on one page for the program. And let's look at that one more time. We set up a variable pi equals 3.14. You can also import pi from math, and you would just type pi and get a more accurate value. But I don't know, I felt like doing it this way, so there you go, Bart. Now we want the input from the person. They are going to enter a size. So let's say they enter the size 10. They got a 10-inch pizza, so we'll put a 10 in there inside the size memory. And then for the price, they paid $5. So well, let's say $5.99. Let's make it an actual float. $5.99. So now we have the items in memory. Size then gets turned into an int. So like some magic happens there, and bippity boppity boop, it's no longer a string, it is now an int. And price is no longer a string, it is now a float. Now we do some math. We get the radius. Radius is size divided by 2. The value inside of size is 10. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. We can update radius in memory. There we go. And then we look at the area. So the area is pi times radius times radius. So, oh wow, I didn't make a little memory box for area. So let's put that right here. It's sort of out of order, but that's not relevant. So radius times radius, 5 times 5 is 25. And then pi, so what is 3.14 times 25? Well, I got to get my calculator out just to get the super accurate number here. So 3.14 times 25. So area is equal to 78.5. So you just bought 78.5 square inches of pizza. What? Now, we need to figure out the price. Sorry, the cost per square inch. So that's going to be that $5.99 divided by 78.5. So $5.99 divided by 78.5, and we get a long number. We get 0.076305773. Oof. So let's put some of that in. 0.7630 dot dot dot. And that's this line right here. Cost equals price divided by area. Then we say, hey, you know what? Let's take that number and round it to 2 decimal places. So cost now equals round cost 2. So that means we went from 0.076 to 0.08. So let's update that. 0.08. That is 8 cents per square inch of pizza. So the program will say that the pizza cost per square inch is 0.8. And that is homework number 2, pizza calculator. Feel free to show this to your friends when they order a pizza, and have them try it with multiple pizzas to see see which one is the better deal. All right. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact your TA or your instructor or both. That increases your chances of getting a timely response. All right. That's it. Have a wonderful day.